Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Tamale South MP Haruna Idrisu denies allegations of receiving payment from South African-based Ghana Infrastructure Company. We have details of a report by South African-based News 24 and the reaction from the former minority leader. Also, Vice President and flag bearer of NPP faces test of personality as he comes under pressure over comment he has now backtracked, saying he was joking. We bring you more as ECG staff members and others hold him for his words on sabotage and nurses' allowances. And later this afternoon, residents demand urgent solution to the perennial flooding along Weja-Kaswa stretch after a storm on Monday left homes flooded and commuters stranded in a gridlock for hours. We're live as officials promise to resolve the problem. Thank you very much for joining us. A South African-based media organization is alleging that a South African Indian-based construction company landed multi-million-dollar contract in Ghana through payment of monies to some top politicians. One of the named politicians, Haruna Idrisu, has denied receiving payments to facilitate the award of contract. The Tamale South MP has hinted seeking legal action. Let's run you through the details of the story and the subsequent responses. News 24 Singh report. It said the publication alleged that the Singh's closest associate was former minister and former National Democratic Party parliamentary leader and NP Haruna Idrisu. It says Ghana Infrastructure Company GIC's relationship stretches back to at least 2015 when money started flowing to causes linked to Haruna at least 20 million Ghana cedis, the equivalent of more than 47 million rand. Haruna, in exchange, brokered contract for GIC worth more than 400 million Ghana cedis, worth close to 1 billion rand. Now, Haruna also played a vital role in securing GIC a subcontract for the construction of an 80-bed hospital in Buipe. In total, GIC and the Singhs paid more than 94 million rand in quote-unquote facilitation fees or project fees, nearly half of which went to Haruna Idrisu. Now, the MP and former minority leader has been responding to the allegations, and he says that, as contained in what he's put out, I am neither a director nor a shareholder of GIC, neither am I involved in this management. I have never, at any point in time, received personally, director to be paid to, benefited from, or been aware of any unlawful, illegal, or immoral payment made by either GIC or the Singhs. I have never brokered any deals to benefit GIC and or the Singhs. I vehemently deny these allegations and categorically refute any implication of wrongdoing. In light of these unfounded claims, I demand that the accuser provides concrete evidence to support the accusations. I have promptly referred this matter to my lawyers and eagerly await the advice on the next steps to be taken. So that's the response from Haruna Idrisu to that allegation from that South African news report. And this is a developing story that we'll be bringing you more on. Motorists and pedestrians on Monday afternoon had to endure endless hours of vehicular traffic commuting the Kaswa-Weja stretch during a downpour. The rains flooded parts of the stretch, making movement virtually impossible. And a gridlock that continued on to Tuesday morning, that's yesterday. But for those that attempted to risk it all, it was a matter of life and death. Several homes along the Weja, SCC and Old Barrier were also totally submerged in the rainwater. Residents who continue to bear the brunt of the rains want authorities to find a lasting solution to the perennial flooding. My colleague George Quainin has been assessing the aftermath of the floods and the extent of damage to properties. He joins us live on the phone. George, what have the people affected been saying?
So I think let's start with the road, and I'm actually at the Kasua toll booth, and comparing yesterday's vehicular traffic to today's one, today is quite minimal because flood waters have receded, and so vehicles are able to maneuver their way through the flood waters, and it's quite easier. It's an easier movement today compared to what happened yesterday. And the complaints from these motorists, the fact that they've been complaining severally about the poor state of this road. And it's like authorities are only trying to manage just a little bit of the problem. The problem comes from the top. It's more like the hilly part of it. So the water, comes down from the top and then gets to the roadside. So they should rather tackle it from the source and not the shenanigans they are doing along the road. That is not the main problem. The problem should be solved from the source. And let's go to the honestly engaging residents or victims of buildings that have been submerged in the water. It's a sad one. I'm even teary speaking to them. And for someone who has lived, in a building for 10 years, built this property by himself with 3 kids and a nanny, and trying to recover from an old, ordeal which was 2 years ago, trying to recover, and there's another devastation of this sort. The children didn't go to school today. He didn't go to work. And he's lost virtually everything from TV, lost his pets, and you can imagine the pain. So what it tells me is they don't want to talk to the camera. They don't want to talk to the media because they've done that several times and then nothing comes out of it. So they are more like, we are dealing with something that we are used to already. So the media is not helping us. We will do our part all right. YouTubers will take action if they want to. But we cannot just go there, put a sword, maybe a gun on their head to make any change. We'll do our part. It's a serious issue.
I don't think I've seen some before. This is my first time of seeing such things. And God's so good. We thank God. It was a daytime. Had it been, it was nighttime, many people would die. And many people wasn't inside their houses. That was why we haven't even heard anything concerning that. And very, very bad. Well, for now, I have no way to regret because I have nothing to move out. We are now planning, if it is possible for us to move, we'll look for money, And then this is our property. We can't just leave it there like that. So as I used to tell you, what we need is government to intervene. Everything is possible. Everything is possible because we have many countries that be building water. This is not the water place because the water is coming from different places. It was just passing by. So why can't we solve where the water is going, where the water is coming from? At least when we have a good gutters that can contain the volume of the water that is passing, maybe the problem will solve for us to leave this place.
So we just heard a resident there proposing solution that there should be gutters. George, very briefly, any support for the affected residents?
I can hear you.
I was asking whether there's been any sort of support for the residents, especially those affected.
I tried engaging the MC and the MP, and then what they told me is that they have a meeting at the ministry, and so they can't talk to me. So because these are the people that are supposed to give that very, answer. But I spoke to the PRO Highways Authority, and he said the minister will be coming here. So I'm trying to fetch camp around SEC to see if I can get an interview, if there'll be any sort of intervention for these affected victims.
Indeed. Thank you very much, George Quainin, and you bring us that update as and when you have it. Now, with the onset of the rains, there are fears that the inundation seen from yesterday in parts of Kumasi may worsen. The National Disaster Management Organization says that the haphazard building on waterways is a threat to managing the perennial flooding. Ibrahim Abubakar is there. He's joining us live on the phone. Ibrahim, talk to us about the extent of damage from the rains last year in the region. Okay, so we'll try and get Ibrahim Abubakar, who's also been monitoring the situation for us and what authorities are doing about it. But ahead of that, a group calling itself the Ghana Environment Advocacy Group has petitioned President Akufo-Addo over the mining rights that the Minerals Commission has granted Better Land Ghana Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of Town Assets Limited, to mine a substantial portion of the Draw River Forest Reserve for diamonds, lithium and gold. The Draw River Forest Reserve, a globally significant biodiversity area, is currently the only unharmed forest in the Jura area, where Galamsey devastation has left a collection of destroyed rivers, streams and a poisoned landscape with an open pit that pose an existential threat to the general population, especially children. We'll bring you updates on this very story as to whether or not the petitioners have been able to submit that petition to stop the president from going ahead or actually revoke the license given that mining company. Let's go back to the Ashanti region. Ibrahim Abubakar is standing by to give us updates on the effect of flooding in that part of the country. Ibrahim, what can you tell us?
Well, Beatrice, last year, more than 10 people lost their lives due to floods in the Ashanti region. And you look at various drainages that have been the cause, the Atafua Bridge, which caused about 6 lives. So this time around, NADMO say it is preparing to ensure that we minimize the impact of the flood, because they've been told that this year we will record more rains and even heavy rains. So, but the worry is that they've observed people are still encroaching on wetlands, people are still blocking waterways, and these are things they are finding it difficult to even address. So in the next few weeks, they will have to start demolishing structures that are sitting on waterways just so they will be able to minimize the impact. With regards to some of the bridges that also caused the flooding, this year, government has taken steps to work on those bridges. Even though work is ongoing, the residents are just hoping that these works will be completed before the heavy rain starts coming. Because when you take Atafua, for instance, anytime it rains, the entire place is cut off. All those going to Barikesi are locked up at Bushe, and those coming from Barikesi to Kumasi are also locked up at the other side of the road. So these are things that people are hoping that hopefully in the next few weeks, these projects will be completed so that when the heavy rain starts coming, we wouldn't be experiencing the kind of flooding that we experienced last year.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abubakar, reporting live from the Ashanti region. Let's bring you more of that story about a group calling itself the Ghana Environment Advocacy Group, which is petitioning President Akufo-Addo over the mining rights that the Minerals Commission has granted Better Land Ghana Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of Town Assets Limited, to mine a substantial portion of the Draw River Forest Reserve for diamonds, lithium and gold. We hear from the petitioners, but the coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa, insists that the Akufo-Addo government has done little, as it were, in the fight against Galamsey.
The firefighters and the arsonists seem to be one. The persons who are setting the fire are the same persons who are supposed to be stopping the fire. When you have highly placed persons who are complicit or actively engaged in illegal mining, the president put his presidency on the line, which seems to have been a mere soundbite, because if you look at the evidence on the ground, things are getting worse and worse and worse, to the extent that Parliament passed LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves, including globally significant biodiversity areas. I mean, how low are we going to sink? So we're not concerned about the devastation being caused by illegal mining. We're not concerned about the birth defects, the rise in kidney and liver conditions, the poisoning of our waters. We're not concerned. Let me say, even when your water looks white, does that mean that it's pure? Mercury doesn't have a color. So it's not just when the water is brown like cocoa that we can see there's something wrong with it. So Ghanaians need to set up. We face an existential threat. And those in the communities should also do what they can. Some bold chiefs have put up signs, no mining allowed here or no mining and prospecting here. Something needs to be done drastically.
And you heard there Awula Sewa. She is the coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens. Let's speak to Bright Bobby. So we rather do have Audrey Quay, who is with the Ghana Environment Advocacy Group. Audrey Quay, good afternoon to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Eli, could I have an increase in the...
Hello, Madam Audrey Quay. Can you hear us? Good afternoon to you. You're live on the Midday News on 3 FM 92.7. Good afternoon. Okay, it seems we're having some challenges with the line to Audrey Quay there, who is with that group petitioning the president against the mining license, giving a company to mine what they call a place reserved protected lands. Now, it seems the flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party and current Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is facing the test of his campaign life as he is forced to backtrack a comment he made that churches must be incentivized to do more rather than being taxed. He now says that he was joking about the comment and that he did not mean that the churches had to be paid. But this is just one of the seeming many utterances of the Vice President that he has been made to either clarify or perhaps say he was sorry for. Let's start from here. Last week, the Vice President, during a meeting with the clergy in the Bono East region, said that his administration, when voted into power in December, would incentivize churches rather than tax them. He explained why. He said, quote, "Unless you don't understand the work the church has done, if you look at the buildings, the way they keep the society together, the universities, the hospitals, the schools, it is massive. It is just massive. Many churches have hundreds of schools. So I don't see and will not have a situation where we tax churches. We would rather want to incentivize churches to support what the government is doing. I want us to be partners in the way that the development partners are with us. You are our domestic development partners and we will incentivize you to do more," unquote. But less than a week later, a seeming U-turn. Dr. Bawumia said that he was joking and that he only wanted us to recognize the contributions of the church and not pay them per se. But this comes weeks after Dr. Bawumia said that ECG staff members were against his digitalization agenda and intentionally affected the system with a malware before they could even reap the benefits of it. Well, the Public Utilities Workers Union of the Trades Union Congress has disputed the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia's assertion that officials of the Electricity Company of Ghana sabotaged the government digitalization of revenue collection. There's another bit about he saying or accusing the opposition NDC of scrapping the nursing trainee allowances, and he seemed to have been faced with a reality check. Listen to that interaction that happened with him and a student just 3 days ago, also in that same region of Bono East.
Over time, we've kept increasing electricity prices and all of that. But for some reason, for about 4 to 5 years, when you look at the data, it's 450 million every month. So I said, we need to send in a team to digitalize revenue collection at the Electricity Company of Ghana. So we sent in a team and we began the process of digitalizing. Can you believe that workers within the system sabotaged, they put in ransomware, and the system essentially collapsed. We had to send in national security, eventually found that it was some of the staff in the IT department who were culpable, and we found the computer from which this ransomware was injected in the system. They submitted a bill that we should pay for them to let the system work again. They were arrested, and we restored the system, and we digitalized the system, and we said that no more cash payments for electricity in Ghana. You can only pay by mobile money, by your electronic bank transfers, and so that is now the case. And from 450 million cedis a month, collections have now gone to over 1 billion cedis a month.
And you heard the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So that was rather his comment accusing the ECG staff members of being against his digitalization agenda. I'm joined on the line now by Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin. He's a political and communications marketing strategist. Good afternoon to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we seem to have lost Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin on the line there, but he'll be joining us very shortly to tell us, give us his interpretation of what's going on. And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Thank you for staying. Let's see whether we have Dr. Tutubuahin on the line. Hello, Doc, if you can hear us. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Beatrice.
I'm sure you heard the narration there, with the latest being the Vice President saying, I was joking. I just meant to let you appreciate that the church is doing so much for the country that we cannot tax them. We should rather motivate them, as it were, to do more as domestic partners. I'm wondering what your interpretation is of these comments, whether it really is a test of Dr. Bawumia's personality or his managers are really digging him in.
All right. Good afternoon once again, and good afternoon to listeners. I think that it is good the Vice President has come back to clarify, what probably he meant. But, some of these second, communications does not really help in political marketing communication sense. My reason is this. The moment a political, leader makes a statement, that is what listeners and his or her audience will take and make meaning out of it. Now, when you are going into speak for the first time, it requires that, you meet certain communication, ethics. And the key among them is that you should be able to analyze your communication and your thought, so that it doesn't put up any negative, image, to the content that you are presenting to your audience. And so, for me, yes, it is good he has come back to, clarify his stance. But I think that in future communications, he shouldn't be making such statements and what he refers to as a joke. Because in politics, there's nothing like jokes, all right? You probably may want to share your personal joke in order to engage your audience. But know for sure that reporters are following you, the media is following, and they may want to catch that headline. And so whatever they make out of your story is what will be published. And you also have an audience listening to you, considering your values and all. So if you are not in the position to communicate directly to them, to make sense, and also to make sure that whatever your intentions are rightly communicated, and you always come back the second time, then that would be very much negative to your communication effort.
So where's the problem? Is it really, yes, you admit that it's good he's come back. You don't appreciate the fact that he kind of added the bit about it's a joke sort of to it, but really, is it him probably going off script, or his managers are, not protecting him or helping him, as it were?
So normally what happens is this. You probably may want to follow a script, or probably you may want to go out of a script. But for me, I think that, yes, the handler should be able to make some of these observations. And then as part of their communication strategy, they should be able to streamline, his future utterances in the public. It is one of the coaching that they are expected to do, so that he doesn't go off script and probably assume that he probably is speaking to friends, or some colleagues, that makes political communication somehow complicated, because on any platform, whether you are with your colleagues, your friends, or something, and as long as it is not in your home, or you are having a private conversation with some friends, and it gets to this level, then of course I think that the communication handlers should be able to do a thorough job. That's why earlier when I was talking about analyzing your speech and your thoughts. You see, so if you know the kind of analysis you put into your speech and the thought, then of course you will be straight with your issues, and you'll be able to avoid, certain expensive jokes, in politics.
You call this an expensive joke?
Yes, I call it an expensive joke. Because, as he rightly said, it is a joke. You can't take it away from him. He probably, was trying to engage his audience, all right, and to let his audience, know that some of these things, yes, this is the way to go. But again, the currency that will come after that delivery, is why I am saying that it could be an expensive joke.
How expensive?
It could it could have some kind of replications, on your voting, fortunes going forward. And I know that we are about 6-7 months away, from elections. So any speech that you put there, should reflect your thoughts, and it should be devoid of certain, complications that will make you lose, listenership.
So where would you place that interaction with the nurses, the trainees there, where he said, oh, well, our opponent scrapped it, we brought it, and then a nurse gets up and says, thank you very much for bringing it back, but for the past years, I haven't received any allowances, and I'm just about writing my exams. That one too, was it the communication team that failed to give him the update, and he went there to say before he was slapped, as it were, in the face with that reality check?
So it is always the case that, what happens at the ministry or government agencies, sometimes, there's a gap between the seat of government and the ministries in terms of communication and whatever is happening in there. Probably on paper, his checks tells him that, yes, we have paid up to this date. But the reality is what is not there. And that is why it is very important that, you should be thorough in terms of the information, the details that you have regarding certain, policies and all. Now, you're going to meet nurses. And obviously, one of the key things that will be coming would have to do with these allowances, the delayed payments and all that. So the communication team should have checked and made sure that some of these things, have been paid. Even if it has not been paid, probably you could find money within that short period to do a 1-month thing, so that some of these questions may be avoided.
Doc,
alternatively, if you feel that there's a problem in there, you don't really, catch that kind of bait in there. Else, it will attract certain questions that probably will expose some of these policies.
Doc, you're running out of time in like 30 seconds. Would there be a need for Dr. Bawumia to redeem himself? And if so, how? In like 30 seconds.
Yes, I think that there's always a time for you to redeem whatever you said and all. And I think that the best way to do it is to come up with concrete facts and figures, to also indicate that, yes, per my checks, this is what is there. And if there's a gap, yes, we are going to instruct for payment.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Bernard Tutubwahi. He's a political and communications marketing strategist. We head to the Ashanti region, where the voter registration exercise in that region and Ahafo region have recorded some highs and lows with sporadic clashes between the two main political parties. William Evans Inkum joins us live with the latest. William, huge interest appears to exponentially, as it were, triggered some of these clashes at some of the registration centers, but exactly what are the parties saying about these?
Well, so the parties have been looking at how they'll be able to at least increase their gains as far as some interest constituencies are concerned. So, for instance, in the Ashanti region, we are looking at the Offenso North constituency. Per the 2020 parliamentary results, the gap is just a little over 1,000. That is between the MPP and the NDC. And to the MPP, it is one particular seat that if they joke, they're likely to lose, even according to the political connoisseurs in the Ashanti region. So there's a high concentration of interest as far as that particular constituency is concerned. The NDC, on the other side, is also doing everything possible to also at least consolidate their gains as far as that particular constituency is concerned. So you see a number of new voters being moved from places like Offenso South to that particular area. And of course, we also see movement from Asawase to other places. And of course, when they get there, that is where sometimes, it escalates. For instance, Edujama constituency, which over the weekend recorded some level of clashes between the two political parties, it was as a result of allegedly new voters being bussed from other, constituencies to the Edujama constituency, because it is also becoming one of the constituencies that political connoisseurs in the Ashanti region have predicted that is going to be very, very, it's going to be keenly contested between the two political parties. So that's how come we are seeing some level of clashes, and then the clashes being born out of the fact that there's some level of, high interest in those areas. But the MPP is saying that they are doing nothing wrong. And I earlier engaged the Ashanti Regional Youth Organizer of the party, Safo Patrick Raphael, and this is how he responded to my question on an allegation of Basin.
Fantastic, William. This is a story that we're going to come to you again on Hot Edition at 5 p.m. because I do know that you've got some numbers and statistics as well. We'll be looking at all of that at 5 p.m. Thank you very much, Northern Chief Bureau William Evans Incoom, for bringing us those updates. And that's how we end the news here on 3FM. Coming up next is the business news. My name is Beatrice Adu. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily. Coming up, fuel prices likely to go down soon, according to the Institute for Energy Security. Plus, pressure mounts on government as businesses and traders agitate over city depreciation, citing depleting working capital and consumer purchasing power.
In the area of indebtedness, we are not able to pay our debts. We are not able to also plan and do projections well, because we don't know what will happen the following morning.
Plus, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, worried over lack of investment in Ghana's fintech space.
The lack of requisite investment in African fintech would slow the pace of innovation and scalability of solutions in achieving the desired impact of a digitized Africa.
My name is Michael Ogbodu. I'll bring you details of our top stories and more shortly. Please stay. Well, thank you for staying with us. Straight into our top story. The Institute for Energy Security, IES, is projecting a drop in prices at the pumps from tomorrow. This comes despite an earlier upward adjustment this month, coupled with continuous depreciation of the local currency. Joining us over the phone is Adam Yakubu. He is a research analyst with the Institute. Thank you for your time, Adam. Clearly, consumers should be smiling to the pumps from tomorrow, right?
Yes, Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listeners. Not entirely, because when you look at the numbers, when you track what happened the previous window, you would realize that a lot of OMCs now have squared the prices of both liquid fuels, that is petrol and diesel, selling at same prices. Some of them did actually drop the price marginally for diesel in order to sell it, whereas in other cases, petrol prices were rather inched up to match up with the price of diesel in most cases. But what we are seeing is that the international market has taken a downward trend. So you have the number of petroleum products that we monitor, which is the three, petrol, diesel, LPG, all having their prices fall by some 5.68% in the case of petrol, 4.51% in the case of diesel, and 4.72% in the case of LPG. These are all price reductions that we've recorded on the international market. However, when you look at the cedi's performance consistently since the end of February, we've seen the cedi continue its downward trend, and this has even widened in this instance. We have recorded some 2.59% fall in the performance of cedi against the US dollar. So when you do the numbers, you would realize that the margin of decrease in case of the international market is wider compared to what the cedi depreciation is recording. But this depreciation we are seeing is going to erode the efforts that we would have made consumers smile. Because imagine if you have some 5.41% or 5.68% against 2.59%, you virtually will have nothing left when you net off the effect. So yes, consumers should expect prices to fall, but in some instances, because we operate an open market, you would see that the OMCs might not entirely drop the price. They would also look at what would be the projected outlook, which is what the cedi would look like going into the next window, and that would guide the management strategy that would be employed when it comes to pricing. Also, remember,
Adam, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. And that is Adam Yakubu there, bringing us updates and up to speed on potential happenings with regards to fuel prices in the coming days. Away from that, the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, is urging the central bank to, as a matter of urgency, find a lasting solution to the current free fall of the cedi. In a press statement, the association expressed deep frustration over the situation, which, according to them, is creating what they describe as big mess for the business community and the consuming public. The group further cites rising freight charges from Asia, rendering the cost of doing business unbearable. The cedi has depreciated close to 10% since January this year, currently trading at about 14 cedis, 80 pesos to the dollar.
The free fall of the cedi against the dollar, how the cedi is not performing very well. As a result of that, it's affecting business negatively. It's a worrying situation for the business community. In the area of indebtedness, we are not able to pay our debts. We are not able to also plan and do projections well, because we don't know what will happen the following morning as a fall of this cedi against the dollar. Is a major concern to the business community. That is why we're asking the Central Bank of Ghana to let us know what are the causes of this free fall of the cedi, and what are the mitigation measures they've put in place that they're going to halt it. So we're asking all these questions so that business community, we're also concerned about the consuming public. The consumers are not able to afford for the product because they cannot plan. Today, the price is 2 cedis. The next moment they come to the market, as a result of the fall of the cedi against the dollar, prices change. So we don't have price stability in the marketplace. So it's a concern to the business community as well as the consuming public too.
So that was the PRO of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Joseph Paddy speaking. Meanwhile, the executive chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, FABAG, John Awuni, has also expressed deep concerns over the depreciation of the local currency. According to him, businesses are folding up due to high cost and consequent increase in prices of goods and services, resulting in a sharp fall in demand.
The current rate of depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi is a major worry to the entire business community. Essentially, the working capital of businesses are being eroded by the day. It's become quite difficult to plan, it's quite difficult to speculate, it's quite difficult to price, and it leaves a lot of businesses confused. We are therefore urging the government to work hard to stabilize the currency, not just for a month or a couple of weeks, but in a manner that can allow businesses to plan. What has happened already since the beginning of the year is a major distraction to a lot of businesses. And we are encouraging the government to do its possible best to ensure that this does not continue, because already the conditions of doing business in the country is already harsh, and this cannot come in to exacerbate the situation.
John Awuni is the executive chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, FABAG. Finally, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has expressed concerns over the challenges facing local fintech businesses due to insufficient investment. Speaking at the 3i Africa Summit in Accra on Monday, Dr. Addison highlighted the significant role technology plays in transforming global affairs, especially in finance.
The lack of requisite investments in African fintechs could slow the pace of innovation and scalability of solutions in achieving the desired impact of a digitized Africa. The general lack of investor visibility is a major challenge for most local fintechs. Without sufficient capital, brilliant ideas, and the prototypes of fintech startup solutions with the potential to address the diverse financial service needs fail to progress to production. The regulatory aspect is another major reason not to ignore the issue of deficient funding in the fintech space. Fintech should have the ability to navigate regulatory requirements and meet compliance standards, which we all agree are non-negotiable, especially in Africa's financial industry. Hence, the need to address the information gap between investors and fintech startups to stimulate the payment ecosystem.
So that was Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, bringing an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Ogbodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.